So welcome everyone. To those of you that I know, I'm happy to see you here, and to those of you that are new, welcome. I'm here in Bali. It's morning on Monday morning, and I think many of you are on the West Coast. It's an interesting thing navigating, being 16 hours ahead of most of my family and friends, but I'm kind of enjoying it. It's like I'm a day ahead. So the purpose of this call today is that as I've been here in Bali and I've been giving myself the time and the space to really settle in this field of nature, which is something that I've noticed throughout my life, has always been important for me, that I find my deepest home and connection, the support and the resources of connecting with myself happens more effortlessly and gracefully when I'm in a field of nature. And Bali is definitely abundant in that way. It's quite alive. And as I've been here and allowing myself to really have a quality of time and spaciousness, what happens for me quite naturally is that inspiration starts to arrive. And over many years, it seems I've had these chapters where I go into more of a retreat mode, and then a new access to the next level of my creative expression arrives. So currently, there are some nuances that are arriving that have inspired me to offer a course coming up this next week. And I'm calling it Taking Refuge. So I wanted to share a little bit about what I mean by taking refuge and just give you all a little bit of context. And then I'd like to just take us into a little bit of an experiential practice. Today, just as an overview, will be about an hour call at the most. And at the end of the call, if there's questions or things that anyone wants to bring, I would love to address that. And to start, I'm just going to lay out a little foundation and then take us into a little experiential practice. And then again, we'll have a chance for some questions and possibly some answers. I don't know. So what do I mean by taking refuge? There's a lot of things we could take refuge in. And this term comes from really a vow or a practice in Buddhism. And what it's referring to is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And I'm not particularly a Buddhist, although I'm familiar with this vow. And what occurred to me is that really the translation, the way I would like to put it out for you all to explore, is the Buddha is our actual nature, our heart nature, our true nature. And so we take refuge quite literally in our hearts as the seat of our locus, our assemblage point, our home. And when we make that our primacy, when we make that our first choice, we tap into a field, what we could call fundamental consciousness, the field in which our biology, our true nature operates upon. And then the Dharma is really the way nature works. You could say, in Buddhism, we would call it, the field of impermanence, that actually the way reality unfolds. And the Dharma is something that I think on one way is very unique to each of us, and that we're in a discovery process of what is our unique Dharma? What is our unique truth to live out? What is our unique ongoing calling, an intimate purpose, relationship with life? And so that's a very intimate relationship that we each have, our Dharma to live out, as opposed to, let's say, our karma, which is really more living out our habitual conditioning or patterning or nervous system levels of being. And so we all know what that feels like, and that's not as fulfilling or satisfying. And so we take refuge in the Dharma of what is true to us, what actually resonates as our most alive emergence of our self unfolding. And for me, the Dharma, we could say the locus in the body, is the head center. It's the place of listening when the head center is actually resting on a foundation of the core being in coherence. And that's a little bit more what I want to go into today. But let me just finish laying out my translation of these three jewels of what we're taking refuge in. So the Sangha, we would call it in these three jewels, is to me really the belly center, or the hara, in that it is the source within us that is, biologically speaking, the way that we're created, the way we're designed. Our hara, our navel center, is the dimension of our being that is wired to be connected to this ground of nature. And it's where we have a kind of umbilical cord, if you will, with Mother Earth. We're designed to be receiving nourishment from the electromagnetic fields of the earth, and to have a rapport, a very intimate rapport with our sense of belonging, our sense of place, our sense of our walk here, to be guided and informed from this field. And so a lot of what happens in our cultural, let's call it our cultural anatomy, our cultural conditioning, is that by virtue of us all driving around in cars and in training with screens and wearing shoes and being more out-focused, we are bereft of this sense of our belonging, of our place in the ecosystem. And so it sets up a situation where we're looking for our place or our identity, our sense of self, our sense of purpose, very much out there, rather than a sense of down and in here. And so our connection to what I'm thinking of as what I'm calling our Sangha really is about being in right relationship with the community. Yes, our people and our place on that level of, our work in the world, our families, our beloveds, our friends, our children. It's about being in right relationship with that field, as well as the field of just our unique, I think of it like our sweet spot, where that umbilical cord of connection to the field of Gaia is actually flowing as a source of nourishment. And the way that I see it is that we're actually designed, the human system is designed to be a flow through in which we're receiving information from below, and we're allowing that information to travel up through our central channel as a kind of the electromagnetic central axis of your body. Actually, all of the information is meant to flow through all of the cells of your body, the organs, the tissues, and to be in a place of communication. That's basically what we define health as, is the cells are communicating, the organs are communicating. But what I'm really referring to is that your hara and your heart and your head being the three main, what are called biological oscillating centers, or the biggest electromagnetic fields in your body. From an embryological standpoint, they are the three areas that your system prioritized in terms of your development. And for me, that's when people ask me, like, well, why do you focus on these three centers? I just want to say briefly that, there are Taoist traditions and Hindu traditions and Chinese traditions and all of the Tibetan, Egyptian, all of the different esoteric mystical traditions throughout time of the mystery schools have all referenced the central channel electromagnetic field axis as the most fundamental, seat in which we abide, in which we access source energy. So we could go into all of those maps, but for me, when I was studying embryology many years ago, it was as if I had these memories or awakenings of this intelligence of Mother Nature, this finger of God, this miracle of life that's actually there as our origin story, that was out of its own intelligence prioritizing the development of the brain, the development of the heart, the development of the gut brain as the primary spaces in which we're perceiving and experiencing and listening to what it is to be here and to be human. So my invitation in taking refuge is that it's an opportunity to start to unravel and unwind from some of that cultural anatomy conditioning in which, when we're entrained with that, the experience is that there's a kind of self-abandonment or an inherent sense of something missing, something lacking. There's a quality of scarcity. And then, part of that cultural conditioning is that we've got it from day one in our educational systems. We got it in our religious systems. We've got it in our family systems, where we learned that what's righteous, what's virtuous, what's noble is to sacrifice the self, to, in a sense, prove our love, prove our worth by a kind of self-betrayal. And so we learn from very young that to survive, I have to be putting the priority of my attention, on my object relations, on my mother, my father, my family, my schoolmates, my friends, my religious, upbringing, if that was part of it for you. We learn very quickly what's right and wrong and good and bad, and how we're going to be accepted and received and punished or praised. And so it sets up this whole leaving. And, that's unique for each of us. But I believe that this process of coming home, we're designed to rest in the center of this central field axis of our bodies. So that circuitry is here. It's more intact and more original as our primary blueprint than that conditioning. And when we start to come home to that original blueprint, there is a felt sense of abundance, of connection, of, ironically, when I'm seated in me, then I'm actually available from my own within, from my own sovereignty. I become available and receptive to actually be in rapport, be in relationship with you, with another. And my sense is that when we as sovereign beings take our seat, take refuge in really choosing, recognizing that it's a choice to love, to honor, to respect this unique, precious miracle that I am. When I'm perceiving through that seat and coming into relationship with you, with whoever in our field, we have a much better chance of actually connecting, of actually having a fulfilling journey together, whatever that journey is. And I've also found in my own experience that, yes, on one level, it's about our relational field and connection with others. But when we take our seat in this fundamental core space, it's also our place of becoming receptive to our creative genius, really. It's the place that when we empty of the conditioned nervous system and we give ourselves the permission to actually rest here, there's a quality of, in that emptiness, a fullness starts to emerge, where again, our unique place of belonging in the ecosystem, in relationship to this mysterious universe, begins to reveal itself in a fresh way, whether that's through poetry or art or your medicine that you practice, or some kind of guidance that you're seeking in your life. For me, it's a place of going to ask for that guidance, a place of, in a way, entering back into that, your own inner temple, your own inner sanctuary, your own place of prayer, and actually coming into right relationship with whatever is important before you in your life. And again, I think just to name the sort of tragedy, when we're outsourced in more of that cultural anatomy, we tend to be seeking answers. We tend to be seeking nourishment. We tend to be seeking connection. We tend to be in a place of deficit or deprivation that makes us hungry naturally and thirsty for that sense of satisfying this feeling like something's missing, something's lacking. And I think that our culture is, preys on that. Our media preys on that. There's a lot of manipulation saying, it's over here, buy me, get this, you need to have this. And so if we fall into that vulnerability and we're just perpetually stumbling into the next thing and the next thing, that it's out there, it's out there, it's out there, we just keep missing this fundamental, precious opportunity of a lifetime, which in my perspective is to receive the blessing, to really receive the blessing of what we are. And when we let ourselves receive that first deeply in a way that we can feel it, where it's not just a concept, it's like, if any of you have had children or been around children or babies that are crying and you hear that cry, it's like you want to locate, where is that coming from? And you want to hold that baby and you want to attune to what does it need so that the crying can come to rest, right? So that the need can be met. And I think of these three locations, these three locus points in the body as really the places in us that are, in a sense, crying, hungry, deprived. And when we locate that crying baby or that hungry, deprived aspect of ourselves, and we actually give it our touch, we bring our attunement, we bring our breath, we bring our love, we bring a felt sense of, I'm here, I got me. And we do that in a regular way. When we make that our most primary relationship, in a sense where we become our inner beloved, we become our inner lover, we become our inner parent, we become our inner best friend. So there's a continuity of more and more and more laying down the neural networks of, I'm here, I got me. That's actually what gives your system the felt sense of, I'm safe, I'm supported, I'm capable. In the safety, in the support, again, gives rise to inspiration, to possibility, to confidence that allows us to begin to enact and exercise and express whatever it is that we know is ours to walk. And my sense is that when we let go of expecting or needing other people or environments to provide that for us, there again we grow a circuitry of continuity with the biofield, with literally the ecosystem of the earth, the cosmic domain above us, the energy that comes in through the crown of the head. We become a flow-through organism that's in harmony, that's in coherence with the universe, with nature. And our field literally begins to have a kind of coherence is one way we could say it, a hardiness, a robustness. And this steps down in terms of our literal health. I think we become less available to take on things that don't belong to us, that might infiltrate our system on a level of disease. We become less vulnerable on that level. We also become less vulnerable to taking on things on a psychic level. Our energy field becomes stronger. We also trust. We build a relationship of trust in ourselves, in our experience as the first reference point of a guidance. So we become less vulnerable to getting entangled with things outside of ourselves that maybe aren't in the greatest good for our life. We become more discerning. We grow more of a natural kind of what you could call boundaries just become natural. They're not something we have to exert. I think, again, also we become more available for genuine, intimate connection with other people because we're less prone to lose ourselves in the connection. We've got ourselves as that primary relationship. And from there, we can share. We can genuinely connect from our sovereignty. So this takes time. This takes, a commitment. It takes a desire, and it takes showing up. And what I would like to offer in this course I'm about to start next week is, I've taught some of this work over the years in different contexts. I sometimes call it core embodiment, and I do have a core practice that I teach. And I know some of you are exposed to that. What I've been finding being here in Bali is that there are some subtle nuances that I would like to share that are, the way I designed the course is to really slow it down. So there'll be 4 sessions. So for 1 month, we'll focus on the hara. And there may be some things that are familiar to some of you who have been with me before. And there's also going to be some new material because I'm going to have the time and the space to really lay down some new tracks. And part of my intention is to give you all little tools that you can implement in your day-to-day that don't require a concentrated practice. In other words, you could be driving to work, or you're in a meeting, or you're there on the spot with your kids or your spouse. And they're little tiny anchoring practices that keep you seated, literally seated in yourself, that don't require sitting on your cushion for a half an hour per se. I will give you throughout the course a concentrated practice that I do recommend you take some time every day, 20 minutes, to cultivate, so that that tangible referencing is here in a way that you can really feel. But I'm also going to be giving some little mini kind of anchoring practices that you can do on the spot anytime. And we're going to start with the hara, because my sense is that it is the part of us that is the least cultivated, the most unconscious, generally the most left behind as Western people. If you grew up in Japan or you practice martial arts, you would naturally have a more of a relationship with the hara. So for Western people, we're much more head-centered. And it seems it's a little bit more acceptable these days to be in the heart. But what I've found from my own experience in being a primarily heart-centered person for a long time is that even when we're heart-centered people, we can use our heart energy, our love, as a way of actually bypassing some of our deeper gut wisdom. I know this firsthand. And I think that our gut wisdom, it's a little bit of a different intelligence than the heart. I find that when I'm seated in my heart as my primary locus, I tend to find that it's almost like there's a quality of like these universal truths, that all is well and all things will be well. And I can tend to use that as a way of almost bypassing where my gut might be saying, hello, red flag, don't go down that street, don't turn right, turn left. And then there can be this subtle co-opting where the head references history and says, well, you remember the last time you did da-da-da, and maybe you should do this time. And we tend to get all kind of entangled with our reasoning and referencing our history, and maybe ways where we have traumas or ways we feel we've made mistakes. And we can tend to get hooked somehow, cycling between maybe our heart's spiritual platitudes and our head's reasoning. Meanwhile, we're totally cutting off from this deeper instinctual kind of existential gut wisdom. And so I want to give us a chance to really feel safe to settle in there and start to grow a rapport and start to recognize your cues of how to receive that intelligence. Another thing that keeps us cut off oftentimes from our belly wisdom is that it's also the seat where we're very much in touch with this existential quality of, it's you could say it's our body, it's the body animal of us that knows we're going to die someday. Mortality is part of the deal, at least on a physical, this unique human expression. And so it's scary, inherently there's a feeling of, in that existential level, we don't really want to feel that. We don't really want to go there and be confronted with the primacy and the intimacy of the fact that we don't actually know when we're going to take our last breath, or how, or for that matter, anyone else in our lives or anything else that we care about. So when we start to drop our spirit down into the belly, into the deep, deep core, sometimes called the lower dantian, we start to tap into this existential, what can feel like an existential anxiety. Because essentially the anxiety is that our spirit is not rested in there. Now, in my map, our spirit is the dimension of our being that's actually connected to our eternal nature. So when we bring the eternity of our essential nature, who we are, that I also believe we have an address in, that is deathless and is more seated in the heart. This is more where we access our eternal center of being. When we allow that to come all the way down into the root and into the belly and to take residence, to relax, it's what actually calms and settles this kind of existential unrest. And so in a way, it's like bringing the Dharma, the truth of impermanence of this field that is true, and the truth of our eternal nature, both, to come to rest into this belly center. And when we allow that kind of alchemy, we can sit in the paradox of being both human and living in impermanence and the preciousness of our mortality. And the way that brings us into this kind of immediacy or intimacy with our choices and what matters. And in a way, being a good steward of our lives, of caring deeply and making wise choices in our steps that nurture, that care for ourselves and others. While at the same time having a kind of nourishing or replenishing connection to our eternal nature, to really being seated in a deeper knowing of who we are and what we are. And allowing this kind of, I think of it as like a core coherence where your belly and your heart start to come into harmony or rapport, and all the way down into your root, and again, all the way down into Mother Earth. And that foundation is what actually allows your head center to relax, to rest, to become a kind of biocosmic antenna of receptivity, where we are actually designed to receive these more subtle energies, these more refined expressions of our intelligence. That again is a very unique, intimate relationship for each of us, how we express that. But I think what happens too often is that because in our Western conditioning, we're cut off from this fundamental ground, we are run more by this existential anxiety, and therefore we're over managing our experience with our head center. And we tend to, from our head center, judge or dominate the more subtle sensitivity of this lower body in our nature here, feeling nature here. And I think this is really like a way that we internalize our culture, because our Western culture is very hyper masculine, head dominated, and it tends to dominate nature. It tends to dominate feeling with more of this critical thinking, more of this academic praise, more of this, survive, conquer, crush it, make it happen, get her done kind of mentality. And so our feminine feeling, listening nature gets more and more compromised and kind of squashed and shut down and repressed. And so we lose that access to being a flow through. And again, that sets up a kind of feeling of abandonment or betrayal or inherent loss or scarcity, because we're cut off from the biofield, we're cut off from ourselves, we're cut off from one another. So my sense is that, we can reclaim our dignity and our field. We can reclaim this larger space that we're meant to occupy and take up and walk. But it takes some cultivation and, again, some dedication. So I think I made my point. Let me just look at my notes. Yeah, I think I said enough. What I'd like to do is just take us into a little practice so that we can have a taste of what I'm talking about. And then I'll do that for about 10, 15 minutes, maybe at the most. And then we'll have about 10 minutes or so if you have any questions or anything anyone wants to bring up before we close the call. So just to give you a taste of an anchoring practice as kind of a beginning, what I want to suggest is that you find your seat here in a way where you can see me sitting a little taller. Find your sits bones. So those two little pointy bones that are resting on your seat, just see if you can wiggle a little bit and actually feel those 2 points of your sits bones. And you can go ahead and close your eyes. So you're just going to hear my voice. Begin to let your attention, your awareness, melt down into feeling that contact of your 2 sits bones. And let your breath travel with your awareness. So as you settle into your sits bones, let your breath just start to descend and expand into your belly. And oftentimes, because we've been paying attention to the screen and listening through our ears, you might feel a little extra energy in the eyes and the ears and the head. So as you're anchoring into your sits bones, see if you can just let the eyes kind of melt down and in. And allow a little sense, you can even touch the crown of your head for a moment. So you're letting this sense of, we want to access this line of energy between the crown of the head and the sits bones. So speaking earlier of this central magnetic field access of your body. So just start to ignite that line of energy by a little touch on the top of the head and feeling your sits bones on the seat. And then go ahead and squeeze your perineum. Sometimes this is called a Kegel. So just let a little Kegel squeeze happen. And again, tapping the crown of the head while you squeeze your root. Beautiful. And then just let the breath start to descend and flow. And what we're going to do is start to grow the energy, the awareness, the breath down into this pelvic area to begin. And then we'll begin to circulate that energy from your pelvis up through your spine and bathing the brain. That's where we're going to go with this today. So what I want to suggest is that you take your hands under your clothes if you can, and actually put your hands on your belly. Find a good fit. So a way that your hands just feel comfortable holding your belly. Continue to feel your sits bones on the seat. You can do a little rocking, making sure that your spine is nice and tall. And we're just going to breathe a belly breath. This is how we breathed together when we were babies. So as you inhale, let your breath descend into the belly and let the belly expand. And as you exhale, let the navel come in towards the spine. And as you breathe in, let the belly expand. And as you exhale, let the belly come in towards the navel. As you breathe in, let the belly expand. And as you exhale, let the navel come in towards the spine. So nice, deep, generous in-breath, breathing in, belly expanding, and feeling your hands touching your belly. And as you exhale, feeling your belly, feeling your hands. So you're bringing your awareness right down in there to the touch of your hands, the movement of your breath. And you're letting yourself feel that you're here, letting yourself feel, I'm here, like I got me. So continuing to breathe and to soften and to relax into this sense of being held. Feeling the warmth of your touch, exhaling, the navel comes into the spine. There's a sort of subtle bowing, letting the back of the spine kind of arch, subtle bowing of the head. And as you breathe in, then the belly expands. There's a subtle arching in the back, a little bit of the head falling back. And as you exhale, a subtle bowing and emptying. Really letting all of your energies settle down into this feeling of, I'm here, in your touch, in your breath, just settling down and in. So as you breathe in and the belly expands, just letting this start to be a kind of systemic filling and filling and filling into the belly. Expanding, taking up that space. And as you exhale, emptying, navel comes in towards the spine. A little subtle bowing in as you empty. Now, as we settle, we start to feel more of our ground. So notice a little more filling in into your seat, the contact with the chair, feeling the energy flowing down your legs into your feet, and also noticing where your feet are making contact with the ground. Or if you're sitting cross-legged, that's fine, just noticing the energy flowing down the legs. And this sense of the earth underneath you, just really letting your awareness begin to extend down below your body. And I want to invite you to let in a kind of receptivity below. So as you're breathing and you expand that belly breath, let it just extend all the way down your root, your perineum, into the space below you. Almost like you're dropping down this root system or this umbilical cord I was speaking of earlier. However it works for you, if you're a visual person, just kind of visualizing with your inner eye a root system dropping down or an umbilical cord. Feeling that energy flow down from your perineum, down through the floorboards, down into the earth. And allowing yourself to receive or establish the memory, the felt sense of your belonging. Like, oh yes, I belong here. This is my seat, my place, my sweet spot. So letting in a kind of sweetness or warmth or kindness to this ground of being that you are resting upon, like a kindness, a warmth, a gratitude. Thank you. Breathing in, letting that warmth, that gratitude extend down and down and down. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my unique place of belonging. Thank you, Mother Earth. Thank you, my sweet, precious body. Thank you for all the health, all the blessings, all of the abundance, all the support. Thank you for all the ways my walk has been supported. Thank you. Just letting that gratitude extend down. Thank you for all the resources, all the ways I've been supported and guided and held. Thank you. Letting that warmth expand through this belly breath, breathing in and expanding. And as you exhale, navel in towards the spine, subtle bowing in and emptying and letting yourself kind of come into this place of a bowing, a humility, a looking in towards your center. And as you breathe in, allowing the breath to expand and expand from the ground up through your legs, through your perineum, into your belly, filling and letting that filling really start to grow the potency in your pelvis, in your hara, filling with life force. And emptying and letting go and bowing in towards your center. Beginning to receive a quality of intimacy with your heart, with your belly. Letting the head bow in. And then letting the next breath come in and filling up from the earth, filling up with this gratitude, this thank you, this yes for my life. Filling. And beginning to sense this feeling of warmth or potency or vitality in your hara. And we're just going to pause for a moment. Continue to breathe, but just pausing and sensing, however you can, this potency, aliveness, heat, warmth in the hara, underneath your hands, in the belly. And again, just this extension of this thank you, this gratitude for my life. Thank you for my vitality. Thank you for my creative, generative, sexual, feeling, instinctual, animal, soul, human mystery that I am. Thank you. So you're allowing yourself to receive the blessing of this felt sense of your vitality, your warmth, this potency of your aliveness. Before we do anything with it, you're letting yourself just receive the blessing. So deep breath into your hands, a breath of receptivity. And exhaling and letting go and allowing that exhale to extend back down into the earth like a wave of blessing and offering back down into the earth. And our next in-breath, I want to just guide you and tell you what we're going to do next. We're going to, as we breathe in, we're going to expand the belly, and then we're going to squeeze the root, squeeze the perineum. And as you hold that breath in, let your awareness start to travel up through the spine, that line again, or energy again, up through the spine, into the center of the brain. So as we exhale, we're extending that energy, just like we waved it down into the earth. We're going to extend it up into the center of the brain. So we're going to start to move this potency from the pelvic center up into the brain. So let me show you how this goes. Deep breath in, expanding and expanding into the belly, and then squeezing the perineum and feeling yourself there in the center root, holding the breath for a moment. So holding that breath in, and then as you exhale, squeezing the root and letting go, extending up through the spine. Breathing in again. Squeezing the root and holding that energy in and in and in. And exhaling, navel in towards the spine from the perineum, squeezing and sending that energy up towards the head. One more time, breathing in and expanding, expanding, expanding. And then squeezing the perineum, holding the energy in and starting to feel your awareness guiding the energy up towards the center of the brain. And exhaling that energy up. So there's a couple more nuances with this. You can bring your tongue to your palate and just subtly lifting your eyes as though you're looking towards the crown of your head as you're in that exhale. I also want to suggest that you take a hand from your belly and rest it on your heart. So you have a hand on your hara, a hand on your heart. And we'll just do this breath a few times, and then we'll just relax and notice what's happening. So deep breath into the belly, from drawing from below, from the earth. And then squeezing at the perineum, holding that breath in, lifting the eyes, tongue to the palate, hand on the heart, bringing the energy to the brain. Exhaling when you need to, bathing the brain. Deep breath in, expanding the belly, expanding, expanding, filling and filling and filling. And squeezing at the perineum, holding that energy in, eyes to the crown, tongue to the palate, squeezing the energy in and in and in. Exhaling that energy, bathing the brain. One more little subtle nuance is you can let as you hold the energy in, as you retain that breath, you can let the chin subtly move towards the chest and the shoulders back. So what we're doing is we're enlivening that central channel, that place of access mundi, that line of energy. We're heightening it. And as you retain the breath, hopefully you're all feeling that line of energy get more activated. And as you exhale the breath through the brain, you start to feel some of the circulation of this life force energy beginning to nourish the brain. So let's just do this 3 more times together, and then we'll just relax. So deep breath in, drawing up from the earth, through the palms of the feet, all the way into the belly. And holding the breath in, squeezing the root, shoulders back, chin locked, tongue to the palate, heart on hand, hand on heart, bringing the energy up to the crown of the head, holding it in. And as you exhale, allowing that energy to just wash up through the brain. Exhaling, letting go. Deep breath in and filling and filling and filling the pelvis from the earth up. Expanding, squeezing the root. Everything in, tongue to the palate, eyes to the crown, chin lock. Squeezing, feeling that line of energy. And exhaling and washing that breath energy through the brain and letting go. So one more time, breathing in and filling and filling and filling and filling. Can let the breath start to expand into the heart and squeeze the root and drawing everything in, and eyes to the crown and tongue to the palate, and shoulders back and chin tucked. Vivifying the core. And exhaling, letting that breath wash through the brain, through the crown, kind of a cascading, washing, letting go. So go ahead and let your hands relax in your lap and just allowing your breath to come into a natural flow, just noticing what's happening with your natural breath. Breathing naturally and deeply. If your awareness wanders, bringing it back and allowing yourself just to simply sit here with your sit bones continuing to be planted on your seat, your spine straight, and just allowing yourself to experience. You may begin to experience a kind of torus, a toroidal kind of flow through of your life force energy circulating through your core, like a donut shape rising in through the core, expanding out the crown, and then falling back down to the earth, or from the other way, from the crown down, this kind of toroidal flow through. Just resting in your center and allowing yourself to enjoy and receive any qualities of pleasure, openness, spaciousness, warmth, light, nourishment, fluidity. If there's any subtle movements that your spine wants to express, any little subtle undulations or spirals. Sometimes what I find happen is that the diaphragm starts to get freed up. And so if you want to just allow any natural movement that's happening there, or explore any natural movement, sometimes for me, my head, the base of the neck, the foramen magnum, starts to get freed up. We tend to have our energy get locked up in these diaphragms at the base of the skull, the solar plexus diaphragm, and then the pelvic diaphragm. So what we just did is we started to free up that energy in those diaphragms. So please, by all means, let yourself go in and allow any new freedom that's starting to unwind, or in the shoulders, and just enjoying any new pathways of openness, spaciousness, pleasure, warmth. Allowing yourself the permission, volunteering the permission to receive you on this most essential level of your aliveness, your vitality, your potency of being, just on a feeling experience. For others of us, it might be very quiet, very still, very subtle, just a deepening enhancement of the breath, extending into the hara, into the root, perhaps filling in the kidneys, the adrenals. So just being intimate with you, allowing the natural breath and the organic movement of your awareness to stay a little bit longer. Eyes closed. You may sense the movement, the circulation of the blood, the beat of the heart. You may become more acutely aware in your senses, the sounds of the environment, the taste on your tongue, the smells that are here. And from this place of openness and safety and trust and more of a felt sense of just your natural being, I invite you, if you like, to just drop in a little prayerful inquiry. If there's something that you are wishing to have a deeper intimacy with in your life, a deeper connection, or you have a question or something you're seeking guidance about, just letting yourself connect with, if there's something alive in your heart that's been wanting attention, see if you can give it this space of your open attention. And without constricting or straining or efforting, just allowing, it's almost like just putting it on the altar of your heart, of your natural openness, and just letting it breathe, letting it be felt, letting it have the space to be here. Without seeking so much an answer, just allowing yourself to be intimate with that which is here. This prayerful inquiry, this place that's showing up as important to you, just letting it be here and be nourished, be welcomed, be allowed, give it space, warmth. And then just noticing whatever this is that you're working with. It's like giving it the space to alchemize, to transform, to reveal, to unfold. Sometimes that comes as clear guidance, or maybe an emotion that arises, or some energy release, or maybe for now you just continue to let it sit there on the altar with this open kindness. Just noticing what's happening. And even another level is letting the field of nature, letting the ground beneath you, the space around you, the sun, the stars, the moon, all of these, the sangha, the relational field, letting it also hold you, hold your body, hold your prayer. So letting go of any isolation, really letting in company, the company of support. And if you like, you can we'll start to bring this into some completion, just bringing a hand to your heart, hand to your belly. Again, extending your gratitude to your being, for your life, for your unique human expression, gratitude to all of your relations, to all of these fields and spheres of support and information and flow. Gratitude to all of this beautiful instinctual intelligence that's intact within you. Gratitude to your heart, to your belly brain. Gratitude to this beautiful head center translator from above, from the below. Just really saying thank you for your life. Thank you for whatever emerged in this practice. And if you like, you can gently rub your hands together. Make a little contact with your eyes, your face. Massage your earlobes a little bit, just to bring yourself back fully here. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Just taking your time, again, feeling your feet on the ground. And as you receive me and you receive the screen, see if you can just stay seated in this receptivity. So let the textures, the light, the colors, the sounds come to you rather than leaving you to go get them. Just staying seated. And I'll open up the last part of our call for any questions or anything anybody has in regards to what I shared or this upcoming course that starts on the 19th. I'm going to go ahead and you can either write in the chat or I'm going to unmute you. Actually, you know how this can work? You can unmute yourself in your little screen there if you want to say something. I just gave you the capacity to do that. So, and if for some reason you have any tech issue and you can't do that, write it on the chat and I can unmute you. So, does anybody have anything they want to bring?
Doug, I'll just say thank you. That was beautiful, and I really appreciate your sharing.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for being here. All right, Steiner says, very, very beautiful, no questions, absorbing. I know it can be a little bit of a thing to try to speak after you've been in a very inward, kind of wordless place with your own inner being. So I get that. I'm just gonna give us a couple more minutes and let you all keep coming, percolating. And obviously if something comes to you later and it's not right now, you know, feel free to email me any questions. Ashley says, thank you, sweet to be with you. Alan says, no questions, enjoyed the meditation. The image of bellows blowing on an ember. Beautiful, that's beautiful. Wonderful. Well, I appreciate having such a rich, juicy audience of so many who could show up live. Ashley's asking, can you outline the structure of the course? Is it 4 weeks? So what's unique about this particular offering, Taking Refuge, is that in the past, I've done either a 4-week course and I've fit in the entire, you know, working with the head, the hara, and the heart, which is a lot to do in 4 weeks. And I feel like I've missed a lot of the nuances. So the way I'm breaking this down is it's a la carte. You can, each 4 weeks will be on each center. So the first one is the hara, and that will be starting on the 19th, and we'll go for 4 weeks every Wednesday. I believe it's every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then the heart will follow 4 weeks, just focusing on the heart center. And then finally, we'll have 4 weeks with the head center. You can either take the whole thing, and I can send you all a link to where this is on my website. There's some different packages. If you want to do the whole thing, there's a package price for that. If you want to just do each one, or if you want to come into it slowly and just do the hara and see how that is for you, you could sign up for the other ones later. I also included in those packages the option if you want to have a private session at a really discounted rate, just to have some fine tuning and personal one-on-one attunement together. So that's an option. Anyways, I can send you the link. There's like 4 different package options. The nature of each call will be about 90 minutes. And again, I'll lay out some context, kind of like today. And then each week we'll bring in the next layer of the practice. And again, what's a little different about this, if any of you have learned my core embodiment practice before, there's going to be aspects of that. Yes, we'll be working with breath. We'll be working with some sounds. We'll be working with touch, some subtle movement. And I want to give you all, like I said, some very simple, easy anchoring practices that are perceptual ways that you can just be about navigating your day in such a way where you keep choosing you and referencing yourself as your primary experience. So some different ways of doing that related to the hara, to the heart, to the head, through the whole core, and speaking to some of the issues that arise just through interfacing with nervous system levels, with overwhelm, again, with just interfacing Western culture where we tend to be very head dominated. I'll be also addressing relational field issues that can come up, because that tends to be where we leave ourselves, is the people we have attachment bonds with, and where we tend to run fear of loss. So really any areas where we have strong attachments tend to be where we unconsciously are afraid of loss. If we choose ourselves first, our truth, our feeling, our innate knowing, we tend to leave ourselves in order to keep that attachment bond intact. Whatever it might feel like is threatening to that is where we can subtly withhold or self-betray from ourselves, where we can lose being honest with ourselves and honest with another. And then that starts to impact our capacity for intimacy, as we all know. So that's definitely going to be a theme, is first, how to cultivate this ongoing continuity, sovereignty with your core, then how that translates in the relational field. And then the other theme will be how we access our creativity, our inspiration, our walk, our work, if you will, our medicine in the world, how we receive our gift with these practices. So hopefully that's enough. If you guys have more specific questions, you can reach out to me and I'll send you the link on my website. Someone's asking me about my book. It's coming along. It's coming along. My intention is to be, simultaneously running this course over the next few months while I'm writing my book, because these themes are obviously interrelated to the content of what's in my book. And because my book's very experiential and practical, I'm not going off course. It will support me in that process, and it will also help allow me to stay in Bali and not have to work so much, be able to have time to write. So that's my intention, is kind of twofold. Anything else before we wrap up the call? All right. Well, thank you all. Sending you my love from Bali. and have a beautiful rest of your evening. And again, if there was any feedback or reflections or anything anybody wants to share or any further questions, feel free to email me directly. And just sending you all my love and my gratitude for your presence here. Thank you. Bless you.